I'm just gonna be honest here. The game dev is really, really hard. It's long, it's hard, but it can be extremely rewarding. And what's great is that game dev is more accessible than ever. So I'm gonna teach you how to make your first game in Gdevelop, a free and open source game engine that uses visual scripting, making it very easy for beginners to make games in it. Now, before we actually get to downloading any software, making any art, or doing anything really for that matter, I think it's very important to actually talk about what you're doing here. Bluntly, game develop is not for everyone, and if you really want to make this work, then it's going to take real work and dedication to not only make these games, but also learn how to. So briefly, I want to talk about 3 things that you should always keep in mind when making a game, or anything creative for that matter. Firstly, why are you making this? Is it to learn skill? Is it to entertain others? Fulfillment in yourself? It doesn't really matter what the reason is. You just need to have it. Because otherwise, you'll just probably get distracted, lose focus, and just waste your time away, and end up with an actual no finished product. Secondly, how much you're willing to put in this. That could be money, but more often, that's time. How much time do you have to make this? Additionally, how much time do you think you can handle working on one project? You always need to keep your schedule and your stamina in mind when making just about anything. And lastly, do you actually enjoy making things? You may not know this answer yet, and that's okay. But if you decide to continue this journey, routinely ask yourself this. Otherwise, you should dedicate your time elsewhere. Because if you don't enjoy your hobby, then what's the point? Now, let's actually get into Gdevelop. First, you actually need to open up Gdevelop. Well, there are many options of where to run Gdevelop. I recommend desktop first and foremost, and web secondly. Please, do not torture yourself with the web version unless you have an iPad and are willing to pay. Gdevelop Mobile is very restrictive and not really worth your time. Stick to desktop, and if for whatever reason you can't download Gdevelop, then use the web version. So, when you finally open up Gdevelop, it's probably going to look something like this, except without a bunch of projects. This can be a little overwhelming. It might start here. There's a whole bunch of things. What the heck? Well, as great as all these games are, we're gonna stick to the build tab. And this is the only one you're ever really going to use that much unless you decide, I want to go get an asset or something. Really, you should try to stay away from that. But in the beginning, at least, it can always be nice to have assets and stuff. That's just my take, at least. So what we're going to do is you're going to go to create a project. And we're going to go here. So up top, as you can probably tell, it's just your options for your view. So there's mobile, desktop, full, and then you can do whatever size you want. Generally speaking, you're going to want to keep it on 1280 by 720, and this is where we're going to name our project. Now we're going to make a little clicker game. For one, because it's simple, and 2, because you're not going to get around actually coding with this. There's a lot of things in Gdevelop that use behaviors, which are like pre-made assets that'll do code for you. They're great, but an essential thing to learn how to do is actually make logic. So that's what I'm going to teach you how to do today. So we're just going to title this clicker game, and you can choose whatever folder you want. Now here's some, it says advanced options. These aren't really advanced. Allow players to authenticate in game is pretty much just for like leaderboards and stuff. For this you can keep it off, but if you decide later on to allow that to happen, then you can turn it back on, obviously. And then optimize for pixel art. All that's going to do is determine whether or not it does smoothing or not. At the start, I'm going to make pixel art for this, so I'm going to click optimize for pixel art. And here's your project. Now there's a bunch of things here, but I'm just going to strip it down just so you understand everything. First of all, you've got 2 main things for every scene. You have the scene window, which is actually where the game world is going to take place. So you could have a level here, characters, yada yada yada. This is where the actual game will be. Additionally, in the scene window, we've got a bunch of other little mini windows. So this side is the objects window. This is going to store the hierarchy of every single object or other asset in the game. This would be anything like a light or a character. In the objects window, it's going to allow us to drag and drop things from this window into the actual game scene. Down here is the layer window, which it's pretty simple as it sounds. It allows you to add and remove layers, and additionally, you can apply effects to these layers. And here's the properties window. So when you click on something that's in a scene, this window will pull up different variables about it, like where it is, and other values that you can assign to it. And the last most important thing that you really need to know about is the events window. This is where all your programming happens. Now in Gdevelop, you have two main options for programming. You can either use the visual scripting, which is the predominant thing that you are going to be using, or you can program in JavaScript. For this tutorial and just about anything else you're going to find, you are going to end up using the event sheet if you need something more complex. Then there are obvious reasons to use JavaScript, but just know that's not necessary in the slightest. Okay, so now I'm gonna actually make the game. First, we need our button, our thing to click in the middle. Now, I made some art for this that I'm just going to drop in. I'll leave some file down below so you can download all of this art. It's free to use. I don't really care about it, just so you've got something to work with. Now, when you go to the Objects tab, it's going to have a bunch of things. The two main things you're going to end up using in here, or I suppose three, is Sprite, Tiled Sprite, and Text. This is pretty much the extent of what most 2D games, at least, you're going to use. Sprite is pretty simple. It is image, you stretch it, it just stretches the image. Tiled Sprite is exactly what it sounds like. Instead of when you stretch the image, it doesn't actually deform the image, it repeats the image and continues it. And then text, it's text. I know, it's crazy. So we're going to click Sprite here, and you're going to have two options. You can either create with Piscal, which is great. This is it's a great pixel art tool, and you can, draw whatever you want in it. This is kind of horrendous, I'm going to be honest. And it works perfectly fine. I already made a piece of art in another program, so I'm just going to import that. Give me 1 second here. And boom. I'm making it a goose clicker, because I can. Now, this sprite here, let's name it. Here's another thing. You change the name like that. Blammo. So we have our goose here, but if we run the game, it is very, very small. So I'm going to show you how to make it bigger. You've got two options here. One, when you click on it, you can drag out these boxes, which is great and all, but it might deform it, and it might look weird, and you might be like, oh, that's kind of crazy, right? This is where we get into our Properties tab. Now, we've got a bunch of things here. It's nothing really that crazy. First of all, rotation is exactly what it sounds like. As I rotate this, it changes. So, like, 180 would be upside down in this case, 0 is right side up, etc, etc. Layer, it's what layer it's on, and layers are kind of weird. I don't know if I'll really get into them with this video, just because they can be a little finicky at times, but that's an important thing to learn later on. And here's your width and height. This is what I was talking about changing. Now these are linked together right now, as you can tell by the keep ratio thing. But then when I remove it, I can fix it. So if we want to go back to the base image, lock the ratio, just turn up one of these, it gets bigger, which is exactly what we want. I'm going to put these both at 300. Now, another predominant issue with this is that white, gray, orange, it's great and all, but it's kind of boring. And we want a different background color. Or maybe you don't, but I do. So, what we do is if you go into your scene, you right-click the background of the scene, or really anywhere, though preferably not touching anything, so you won't mess with these properties. Go to Open Scene Properties. Here you've got a couple of things. For one, whether or not you're going to stop music and sounds when you start the scene. This is checked by default, always. You don't always want that. So, I say generally speaking, uncheck it, unless you know for a fact that you don't want things like going between. I generally keep one music track going, especially for small games, so it's generally good to just keep that off, but to each their own. And here's your scene background color. You just click on the little color box, and you can change it to whatever you want. Okay, there we go. Green, and now when we start it, we have Goose in the green, but nothing happens. There's no game, there's no text, nothing. So we're going to do one more thing, and then we're going to actually get to coding. Isn't that fun? We're going to create a new object, and then we're going to make text. Here, it might be a little overwhelming, admittedly, but it's nothing really that crazy. For this, we're just going to make your score counter. I'm going to change the color of it to white. I'm going to keep it on the default font, though I would highly recommend just finding your own font. Does the asset store have fonts? I didn't even know it did. I'm learning too. Kenny Future, ooh. And let's just make that 0 for our score. Oh, that is an interesting font. And let's just put in the top right here. Or, you know what? We can center it. This is another thing. You can change this. I'm going to make it centered. And we'll just keep the score in the center of our goose. That's that. That's the score. But nothing happens still. So we're going to change that. Remember to always save your projects routinely. That is Control S. In Gdevelop, that's also Control S in most programs. I don't know a single program that has a save control key and it's not Control S. So we're going to go into our events and we're going to create an event. Now what we need to do here is we need to make it so that the counter goes up every time we click the goose. Now that I think about it, okay, the goose is named the Goose. So we're gonna go into, okay, I probably should explain how this works. So how these work is everything is pretty much an if-then statement. If you're already somewhat familiar with coding, pretty much it's just going to say the condition in which something has happened. So like we click on the goose, or maybe even the score changes, or something like it just happens, right? And then what is the reaction to that? Cause and effect is effectively what this is. So we're going to go into here at condition, and you can find a bunch of things in here. You can find object specific things, and then you can find other things. Now I generally just search up what I want. So in this case we're going to do mouse clicked, and they've got released. We want, why can't I see? Pressed. Aha. And left. Now we're going to make this trigger once, because we don't want them to just be able to hold down on the button, or the goose, I guess, forever and just infinitely get points. And we also want to make sure the mouse is colliding with the goose. So we're going to do the cursor touch on object, and then we're going to make it as the game predicted with the goose. And we want an accurate test. I don't know why you wouldn't want an accurate test, honestly. So now with those three conditions, we can make the thing happen. Now, this is another very important thing to learn. Variables. Now you've got a couple 4-ish types of variables that you're going to be working with in Gdevelop. You have global variables, which go for all scenes everywhere. They are global. Scene variables, these only exist within a singular scene. If you come to another one, they are thus reset, implying, of course, that scene was closed. You have object variables tied to a specific object, generally in a specific scene, and instance variables. These are object variables, except they've been changed to a specific instance in that scene. Now, object and instant variables are a little more complex than you're probably going to deal with for a long time. For right now, you just need to know that global variables are accessible from the dashboard here, and they go everywhere, and scene variables are staying in the scene. We're going to use a scene variable for our score. So now we're going to go up to here, and we're going to right-click the scene, go into scene properties, and right here where it says edit scene variables, we're going to click that, and we're going to create a variable. We're going to call it score. And then we need to change the type. All of these, I don't know when they added structure, but the 3 main ones you're going to use is string, number, and boolean. String is text. That is all it is. It is hello world. It is hi, I am Hooded Olive, and I am making a video right now. Number is a number, and boolean is a true-false statement. Used a lot in logic. Arrays are what carry just a bunch of data in it. An array could have 15 strings under it, could have 15 booleans under it, and it could have 15 booleans, 2 strings, and 300 numbers. That's what an array is. I have no clue what a structure is. It looks like an array? I don't know. Go somewhere smarter than me, because that's new. But we're going to use a number for our score here. I'm going to name it score, like I had before, and it's going to start at 0. So now, we're going to come in here, and every time that it's clicked, as we've determined, we're going to go scene variable. Oh, spelled that wrong. There we go. Change number variable, score, and then we're going to have it add 1. So now, every time that we click it, the score is going to increase. Wait, that doesn't mean the text is changing. I'm going to set this to 1-0. I just thought about that. I should have more foresight. So now we need to make it so that that text is always changing. So we're going to keep the condition side empty. That just means it will always happen. Always, constantly, always, whenever there's like a relative change. And we're going to go to score here. And then we're going to go text. And we're going to set to. And now, it's very important. You might be like, oh, wait, but I can only put, like, something like that in there. Which you can. Like, if I set it to hello, you notice how it's at 0 right now, but when it starts, it says hello, which is lovely. However, we need that to actually go to the variable wheel. So you can actually type in other things, and it'll pop up of different functions and things. So if you do variable, that means a scene variable, that is going to take that variable and it's going to put it in here, and as you can see, there's the toString function, which will turn it into text, so you don't have to worry about a thing. So if we put our score variable in here, now that means every single time that we click this goose, this not only does the score increase, but our number up top increases. It's like unlimited fun already. But this is kind of boring. For one, there's no progression. You can't buy any new things. Secondly, the goose doesn't do anything when you click it. There's no sound effects. There's no game juice. There's nothing. So we're going to fix that. Firstly, sound effects. Sound effects are very important for just about any game. A lot of people really, really underestimate the importance of sound design, and I won't let you do that. So here, under this, we're going to go to other actions. We're going to go to sounds and music, play a sound, and now we're going to go to asset store. Now I'm gonna find a very awesome goose sound. Okay, so I downloaded a sound. It's stupid because of course it is. Now with the sound, you can change the volume 0 to 100. We're just gonna keep it as 100, and pitch, which is just, it should be the frequency. However, they just changed the speed, which is a perfectly fine way of doing it. That's just me though. But yeah, so we're gonna use that. So now, every single time that we click on it, it should, assuming it works, make a sound. Isn't that just amazing? But you might say the same sound over and over. It gets a little bit annoying, so we're gonna go to the pitch here. We're gonna do random, float and range, and we're just going to add the slightest smidgen of variation, just so it's just a bit more interesting. Really get the duck feeling, you know? Or this is a goose. Sorry, the goose feeling. So now you have that. We need upgrades. Let's make these upgrades. So now that you have a general idea of how Gdevelop works, before I show you how to make an upgrade, first I want you to just try to make a button to upgrade it. Maybe all you do is you made a sprite and then you move on and watch how I do it. Maybe you just make it react and do what you want it to. I want you to experiment, because ultimately tutorials are great and all, but they don't mean anything if you don't actually understand what's happening. So pause this video, try to figure it out yourself, and then come back and I'll show you how to do it. Okay, welcome back. So, what we're going to do here is we're going to go to text, and we're just going to call it upgrade text. Upgrade text. We're just going to use the same font we were using before, and we're just going to say something like, let's see here. What do we want our upgrade to be? I guess just like get a point every second or something. So we're going to do click for one more automated point per second. There we go. And let's stick that over here. And we're going to make it a smidgen smaller. Let's put that up here. And then we need a button to click. So this time, I'm actually going to use Pascal, just to show you how that works. Though, I'm going to kind of time-lapse this, just for efficiency's sake. Okay, so I made the button to upgrade it. Now, just so everything lines up, I'm going to do it to the same degree as the other, just so it looks nice. So now you can press this button to upgrade. Get one more point per second. So now we need to make that happen. So we're going to actually copy this code, except change it to button. And now, as you may have figured out, we need another variable. So we're going to go to student variables. Score per second. and we're going to do a number. So we're going to take this, except score per second now. And now we're going to actually make the score per second work. So we're going to make a timer that happens that starts at the beginning of the scene. We're going to start or reset scene timer. We're going to call it SPS, score per second. And then when that timer goes off, SPS is greater than or equal to 1 second. We're going to restart the timer, and then we are going to add 1 score. So right now, this button does not cost anything. Oh. Well, that's interesting. What the heck? Oh, it's because it's adding 1. Stupid. Okay, we need to make it so that it adds variable, scene variable, score per second. So now, I'm just gonna add this up a lot. Wow, look, it gets a bunch. And you can click. How satisfying. But we need to make it cost something. So, what we're gonna do is it's going to cost 100 score to buy it. So, we're going to check here, and we're going to compare 2 numbers. First of all, variable score, and that it's greater than or equal to 100. So when that happens, we're going to add the score per second and then subtract 100 from the score. So now I try to do this, nothing happens, so I have to get 100 points, no matter how annoying that may be. I should have made the number lower. Give me a second here. Okay, so now we're almost to 100. So if I try to click it right now, nothing happens. 100, and I'll go over just to show. Click it, and now you bought it, and now it goes up on its own. Great. That's basically a clicker game at that point. Now, obviously, you can add a lot more to this. This is a very, very simple game. You can add more upgrades, you can add more things, you can make it so that the goose is more responsive, maybe even add like tween so it reacts to you. You can make a lot of changes to this. And so, but it's still something. It's a very beginning game, very basic. But I hope this taught you a bit about how to actually like make logic and do basic things like that, how to get through the Gdevelop interface and things like that. But yeah, but this is the fun part of making games, is actually going and doing your own thing, and making your own thing. My tutorial doesn't really mean crap if you don't get anything from it. If you just blindly follow everything I say, and you get this end product, good job, but you didn't really do anything. So I want you to go now and make changes, make new upgrades, change the color things, make your own art. Do something interesting with this. Maybe add a high score. Maybe make it safe. I've got a tutorial on how to do that. You can watch that if you want. But yeah, please, I want you to go and actually get something for this and make something interesting. And I'd love to see what you do with this. I've got a Discord server, and if you posted something like that there, I just love that. Or you can send me a video in the comments. I don't really care. I just hope that you get something out of this. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, found it engaging and good. I hope you learned something. That's what I should hope. And if you've got any questions about this, feel free to comment down below. If you need any clarification or anything, I'll try my best to help. But yeah, I just hope you have a wonderful day and that you get to make some cool games now and try to learn, and because this is an awesome thing. And I love making games, and I hope that you can find the love for that too. But yeah, bye.